On a hot day in August 1912, the traffic in London came to a complete standstill. It was for the funeral of an ex-pawnbroker's apprentice from Nottingham. Thousands crowded the streets to mourn a man who had dedicated his life to serving the forgotten people. His name was William Booth, General William Booth, the founder of the Salvation Army. William was born in 1829 in Nottingham. The only fame achieved by his father Samuel, a builder, was to be reported for bankruptcy in the local paper. It was a time of great poverty throughout Britain. Lack of agricultural jobs and the rapid development of city industries caused people to flock in from the countryside to find employment. Inadequate housing was hastily built for factory workers. Highly contagious diseases like cholera and typhoid would spread quickly through these slum communities. Sweatshops abounded, where young children were compelled to work 14 hours a day in high temperatures and were punished for simply looking out of the window. Misery was a fact of life, and many people drank heavily to try and forget. There was no state concern for the poor. The priority of the government was to protect Britain from enemies abroad rather than from poverty within. At the age of 13, William Booth's father sent him to work for a pawnbroker in Goosegate, Nottingham.
He was very quickly made aware of the poverty around him. He was aware of children crying on the streets for bread. He was aware in his pawnbroker's apprenticeship, which began when he was 13, of women coming into the shop and pawning their wedding rings, the last vestige of respectability, so that they might get money to feed their children.
When his father died a year later, William felt the pinch even more as he became the family's breadwinner. Anger at the desperation around him made him determined to join the Chartist movement in order to campaign for justice for the poor. But when he was 15, a Methodist friend invited him to a Wesleyan chapel. What he heard about God's love began to make sense to him. He decided to give his life to God and was immediately filled with an overwhelming sense of joy and purpose.
I feel that I could willingly and joyfully travel to the ends of the earth for Jesus Christ and suffer anything imaginable to help the souls of other men.
Soon after, he heard a visiting evangelist preaching and was deeply affected by his straightforward style and the way he urged people to make a decision.
It made an ineffaceable impression on my mind, filling me with confidence in the power and willingness of God to save all those that come unto him.
When a friend later invited him to lead meetings in the Nottingham slums, William found that people responded when he spoke about God's love. He saw men who'd happily spend all the family money on drink, turning to God and away from alcohol. William, at 17, was now experimenting with a pattern which greatly influenced how he worked in the future.
We obtained the loan of cottages, and in these held meetings every night, always commencing with an open-air address, fine weather or foul, all the year round, inviting the people indoors for another meeting. Here again we had lively songs, short and sharp exhortations, insisting upon decision for Christ on the spot, which was to be signified by coming out and kneeling at the round table that stood in the middle of the room.
Hope was injected into their lives, and that made a vast difference, and lifted them out of their despair and gloom, and helped them to believe in themselves, and that a future could be carved.
When he was 20, he was forced to leave Nottingham for London to find work to support his mother and sisters.